Thank you so much for being here. I think it's a great chance to talk about, do you say ENGIE or ENGIE?
ENGIE.
ENGIE, okay. Okay, so I'd like to start out first with the personality test, because that way, you know, we can get on the same page when I start asking some serious questions.
I don't have the surprise effect.
That's true. Although this time I will make it like an actual exam, so I'll give you a grade.
Okay.
Because I'm a professor and that's what we do. We give grades. Okay, circle or square?
Yeah, definitely square. Yeah.
Oh, definitely square.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I think that's a quality with being a CFO, right? I like boundaries and stringent framework in which you can operate, so definitely a square.
Wow, okay. What was your major when you were like in university?
Yeah, finance. Yeah,
Okay.
Actually financial engineering, so trying to...
Okay. So if I went to the business school and asked a smattering of undergrads, do you think they would all be squares?
Oh yes.
How about Kiki? So Kiki here, or Booba? Yeah. How about Kiki or Booba? Is that so obvious?
Yeah, Kiki, yes. Kiki. And my daughter is here, and I think she can testimony. I'm a Kiki one.
Oh, Kiki, okay. If she's here, I can ask.
Yeah, she's here.
Is she Kiki or Booba? Oh, you're right there. Okay.
I don't know the left one.
Yeah, Kiki. That's Kiki.
Kiki.
Yeah,
okay. Yeah. Okay. And then, of course, we have Tobo. So robot, artificial intelligence, prototype. So metal or marshmallow?
Yeah, marshmallow. I like
marshmallow.
I like sugar too much. So
okay. All right. Well, Tobo actually is metal. So I have to score you. So 3 out of 3 questions. You got the Tobo one wrong, clearly, but the others, I guess I'd give you 2 for 2 on those. Now that I know about finance people, your squares and sharp edges, I guess. All right. So okay. So I'd like to know a bit more about ENGIE and what you do with the company. I mean, like, what does a CFO do, and what does your day job look like?
Yeah, sure. So ENGIE is an international company, a utility company based out from Paris, actually. So we have been operating as a utility infrastructure company for something like 150 years. And actually, we started with Suez Canal, so a while ago. And since then, we concentrated on energy, gas infrastructure, gas supply, notably in Europe, but also in South America, power infrastructure, power generation, and essentially on renewables, so hydro, wind, solar. We expanded recently on battery storage. And energy management and gas and power supply to B2B customers, but also B2C, so retail kind of customers. We are present in something like 30 countries. So Europe is our home base, but we have a fairly significant footprint in South America, Brazil, Chile, Peru, Mexico. And here in the US, we have been operating since for 45 years, headquarters in Houston. Initially, back then, through our gas business, we used to have CCGTs and staking LNG terminal, which we decided back in 2015 to sell, while we were redeploying our business towards renewables. And so we invested in a renewable developer back in 2016. And since then, we have been developing wind, solar, batteries in Texas, and we are expanding outside of the great state of Texas into other markets, so in the Northeast, and since last year towards California. And I joined ENGIE nearly 20 years ago in France and moved to Houston 3 years ago as a CFO. I made most of my career in finance. I started with investor relations. I did some controlling activities, corporate finance, investment. I also was a chief of staff for the chairman of our board, and I was in charge of the strategy for our district energy system activity that we have in France. So I was very happy with the campus store earlier on. And so this CFO position that I took 3 years ago was my first full-fledged CFO position. And so I'm covering all the finance activities for our businesses in the US and in Canada. So from accounting to controlling activities, investment, M&A, tax, which is a lovely topic. Treasury.
Do you love tax?
I love my head of tax because she knows how it works. And procurement as well, which was new to me. So that's a quite comprehensive scope, and I have the pleasure to lead a team of 150 great team members, mostly in Houston and a bit in Chicago.
Can I ask you an org chart question?
Yeah.
Okay, because I'm in the process of writing a proposal for something called the Permian Energy Development Lab, and we get in these discussions about what's a functional org chart look like. So I'm actually just curious what when you manage 150 people or 180 people, say in your organization, what does that org chart look like? Like how does ENGIE do that versus, I don't know if it's different than other companies. I'm just curious. How do you manage 150 people?
There are some kind of rules in what is in each country, how we are organized, looking at the number of spin-off layers within the organization and how many people a single manager should manage, so that either you don't end up with having too many direct reports, which tends to be a bit time-consuming or heavy to manage, but that not a single manager ends up with managing only 2 people. So this is a bit how we tend to structure the teams. And so in my organization, I have 7 direct reports, VPs, and each of them can manage 3, 4 sub-teams or sub-departments in their own organization, so that we have like sub-teams, but with a meaningful size to operate.
Okay. Now I know how I'm going to finish my proposal. Yeah. No, that's great. So I learned from you recently, and I didn't know this, that ENGIE is responsible for about 40% of the battery capacity in Texas ERCOT market. I mean, first of all, I didn't know that. That's really interesting to me. And why? What's motivated ENGIE to be in that battery space and really probably be a leader, since you have 40% of the capacity?
So as I mentioned, we started in Texas with wind 10 years ago. We further developed solar. So as you know, in Texas, he's a U.S. state leader in terms of wind capacities in the U.S. It has the greatest potential for solar deployment. So this is what drove our interest in further developing solar. But the grid, for those who were there this morning, is not so well prepared to absorb all this capacity of intermittent energy. So to support the growth of renewable in Texas and in other states, but if I stay focused to Texas, we need batteries to cope with the time to develop further power grid in the state. So we saw these business opportunities and the need to develop quickly flexible capacities. And back at the end of 2023, we enter into exclusive negotiation with a developer of batteries here in Houston, actually, which has developed a very significant pipeline of battery project, having already 300 megawatt operating. And at that time, that was already quite a significant achievement. And so we bought them at the end of 23 and deployed 800 additional megawatt in 2024, and putting us in a first mover position in ERCOT. We still have 2 gigawatts to come by the end of the year.
2025.
2025, yes. And so we are also expanding in CAISO, as the market also has very significant needs for flexible generation capacities.
Wow, that's amazing. I mean, to just hear about that sort of trajectory. I also direct a solar research center that's been going around for about 15 years, and going back, when that center started is 2009 or so, and there really was not a data point for how much energy or electricity was coming from solar into Texas. Now it's like 6% or more. And so to hear that kind of growth in batteries is amazing. I mean, what's your perspective about energy transition? Some people don't like that term, but I'm going to use it.
No, we do like that term. And I mean, ENGIE has made its own transitions over the past 10 years. I mean, we do have a target in terms of CO2 reduction and to be carbon neutral by 2045. And intermediate objective to reach this target. And the word intermediate is important, because if we want to reach this target by 2045, we need to start now, and it won't. It won't come in one day or overnight. So there will be small steps, and we think that this approach is also applicable more broadly to the energy system in the world, and in Europe and in the US as well. But considering the need or the increase in energy demand, and especially, this is true especially in the US, because in Europe the trend is slightly different. There is need for all kind of energy to mitigate both objectives, to fight against climate change, reduce our emission, while having affordable and reliable energy. So there is obviously room for wind and solar, gas, geothermal, and nuclear. The time frame of all those technologies are quite different. I mean, we heard earlier today that for geothermy, it can still take some time from both a technological standpoint and economical standpoint. SMR probably as well. But even if we go to gas, like CCGTs or open cycles, those technologies are mature. They are completely profitable, but the supply chain is not there. So even if we wanted to supply or to answer to all the consumption needs with gas, we couldn't just build the number of CCGTs or open cycles that will be needed. So just there is a need to accommodate those energy needs with whatever is available and affordable, and depending of each market and also from the customer appetite, there is room for all those technologies.
Well, I've been really surprised to learn about this supply chain issue. I mean, it's been a topic in Texas for sure, with the state legislature is meeting now, talking about policies. They were meeting 2 years ago. And sort of the need for baseload power, I mean, it's obviously important. And then people start talking about gas-fired power plants. But then you learn that you can't even get a turbine for what, 3 years?
Yeah,
Four
the
years?
the lead time can be 3, 4, 5 years.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people don't really realize that. And so when you think about the energy capacity or the production capacity that needs to really double in the next 5 years, or even if it's not double, it's some large amount, and then how the grid needs to be upgraded. What's your perspective on the economics and how maybe, going back to the battery storage question and that issue, can batteries play a role that, like, while we're trying to upgrade the grid and transmission lines, can batteries play a role in that for us or not?
No, but it is already playing a significant role. I mean, those batteries, they can have different business models. Let's say two, basically. You can have batteries co-located with your solar assets. And so here, that's a very local business. I mean, you are charging and discharging the power that is produced by your solar asset. And so being able to sell the energy, notably at night. The other business model is to have standalone batteries located closer to the energy consumption and being able to either provide ancillary services to the network. So fixing the frequency issue that Caroline mentioned earlier this afternoon, and especially during extreme event, should it be cold event, should it be a warm event, or should it be unexpected maintenance on a significant gas plant in the market? I mean, wherever can create a significant supply and demand imbalance, then the batteries support the reliability of the network, of the grid. But we see more and more shifting the business model of those standalone batteries toward energy arbitrage. Mm-hmm. And so developers capturing difference of power market pricing on the market, but which is just at the end of the day something similar to ancillary services, meaning you have a price signal to which you react. And so there are a lot of developers operating in Texas, for sure. Software companies being able to provide also the algorithm needed to be able to operate your fleet in the most effective way. And that's indeed a good in-between solution while you don't have and cost-effective solution compared to developing and expanding, upgrading your grid locally.
So do you anticipate any supply chain issues with the batteries that you need? I mean, is there a lot of batteries being installed?
So what really unleashed the business model or the development of batteries since 2022 is that it is eligible to the IRA. Oh, okay. And so there was a strong push also to get domestic content for batteries. For the time being, there is no supplier that is able to provide cells produced in the US. So it's not a question about, there is no supply chain issue, it's a question of pricing, and especially if you think that potential tariff can come on top of the existing cost of those cells. Nevertheless, what we see is that so those cells are predominantly produced out of China, and that there is actually an oversupply of cells, of those kind of cells in China. Whether it is intentional or not, I don't know, but what we see is that China is offering lowering the prices of those cells, probably compensating for some part of the potential tariff or lack of domestic content we can get. So making it short, the answer is no. Still a bit of open question mark on pricing. Pricing. Yeah.
Well, I mean, kind of on that topic, there's certainly some policy uncertainties right now in energy. I don't know if you have any thoughts about that, maybe recommendations, or I'm also curious about how the company manages risk in a state of, you know, regulatory uncertainty.
Well, I would say that first, it's for a utility company operating for 150 years, facing regulatory issue or changing in policy is not a first of a kind. So I think we need to be quite calm and resilient and just be mindful about the investment decision that we are going to take in the short term. So our first reaction is certainly to a bit of wait and see. We did have some final investment decision to be made in the first quarter of the year that we decided to postpone. And notably to give us some time to discuss with our suppliers and our customers. That's for sure for an investor, should it be a foreign or a domestic investor, our uncertainty is not great to make investment decision. But first, we think that our main customers are GAFAM, I mean Amazon, Microsoft, Meta, all those kind of guys. And they are still committed to their energy transition path. Yeah. And they need so much energy that they are willing to take whatever will come as well, as I mentioned previously. So we see there is two routes. Either they will be able to convince the administration that they still need a subsidy scheme, so the IRA to stay in place to benefit their own energy needs, or they will accept to pay the full price of the energy without those subsidies. But so that's what we try to figure out with them, what is the route they are trying to take. And we need also to negotiate with our suppliers how we would spare the tariff risk. The one that we can know about and we should know about, I think it was 3 p.m., so I will look at CNN when I will go back to my seat. But the one that we don't foresee right now and might come at a later stage in a couple of years. So we need to be more mindful and legally protected on how we can share those risks with our suppliers.
Well, I'm going to change topics back to you. Now that I know you're a square, I can. I'm just, you know, students these days, I guess it's similar to when I was an undergrad, and I didn't really know what I was doing when I was an undergrad, I would say. So when a student decides they're interested in energy, or maybe they're trying to figure it out, I mean, do you have any recommendations for them? What can they do to help prepare themselves for a career in energy, or even better, discover whether they like it or not?
Yeah. No, I think I have two recommendations. So I have been most of my life working for an energy company, not having an engineering background, and from time to time it was if not, I wouldn't say I struggled, but it was a bit frustrating not to be able to fully understand the mechanics and how a power plant works, how the district energy works. So I would say that if you are convinced that energy is your thing, having an engineering background, even if you won't be an engineering during your whole career, but it's easier to transition from an engineering role to a CFO role than vice versa. So if you are the kind of really like to understand the detail, having an engineering background is probably useful. And then I do recommend the internship. We do offer internship at ENGIE. But when I was in college, I had the opportunity to do several long-term internships. And I think this is a good way to better understand what you like, what you don't like, and to build your networks. And at the end of the day, the way I get my first job was through the internship I made a few months before. So I think that's, there is only positive to those kind of internships.
That's great. I think I have time for one last question for you. What do you love most about your job, and what do you not love the most?
So what I love the most is developing my teams. And this position is really my first managerial experience at this scale. And being able to support my team in their own development, offering internal mobility, unleashing their own potential. I think that's really something that is fulfilling from a personal and professional standpoint. I like the fact that ENGIE is a utility company and meaningful in terms of purpose. I think just waking up every morning is something that is motivating me. What I don't like, really, and I could be in bad shape, in bad mood for that, is skipping lunch. And when you are
skipping lunch.
When you are a CFO,
well, and you're
and
French.
and
you can't skip lunch.
No, but that's it. And so when you are working on 2 time zones between Houston and Paris, lunchtime is just the worst spot.
Wow.
Because you always have meetings. So that's.
Yeah. Well, try to get lunch every now
yes.
and then. And, but no, that's great. Well, thank you so much for taking
You're
the
welcome.
time and coming for the discussion.
Thank you very much.